All right, guys, so today we're going to cover the deadlift. And the deadlift is one of the most functional movements that you can do, and it's one of the best movements for fitness out there. I mean, you're gonna gain lean muscle mass by doing it, and you're just going to be functionally strong. And then when your buddy says, hey, can you come help me move my furniture? Unfortunately, you will be able to, but that doesn't mean you have to, so don't worry about that, okay? So Chris is going to take you through the deadlift today. I'm going to take you through it and coach Chris through the deadlift. The first thing that I'm going to do with Chris is I'm going to say, look, Chris, you're wearing squishy running shoes, so let's go ahead and kick those shoes off. That does two things. It gives him a more stable lifting platform because those squishy running shoes are very unstable, put your knee in a very compromising position. So he kicks those off. The other thing it does is it lowers him effectively. It raises the bar about a half an inch to an inch because the thickness of that sole, he's now shorter. Right? So now he has more leverage on the bar. If you want to lift in powerlifting shoes, Chuck Taylors, DCs, Vans, any of those, that's a good idea. Absolutely would not recommend deadlifting in running shoes. Now, if you're doing a WOD or something, maybe. But anyway, so let's get into it. What I'm going to have Chris do is face the camera real quick, and I'm going to have you get into what we call the jumping stance or conventional deadlift stance. So feet are right under the hips, toes pointed forward, maybe canter out a tiny bit, but we don't want to be in a squat stance for this, and that's a really common misconception for the deadlift. People, for some reason, feel like they need to be out in this wide stance. Okay, that's more of a sumo-style deadlift, and we don't really teach that. So, feet hip width apart, toes pointed forward, looks good. Okay, now let's set up under the bar, same way. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is same stance, but I want you to slide forward until your shins are actually touching that bar. We want to be right on that bar. Now, during the deadlift, we never want that bar swinging away from our body, so it's going to be in contact with your shins and your thighs all the way through the lift. Okay? So the next thing is, I'm going to say, I want you to set your back and push those abs out hard. Try to push against my finger. There we go. If you're going to wear a weight belt for the deadlift, which I think is a great idea, push against that weight belt. So imagine you got that weight belt on. You're going to feel like you got a big old ugly belly. Totally fine. We don't care what we look like when we deadlift as long as it's safe. So he's set, he's got his abs pushed out. Now he can breathe high up in the lungs. Go ahead and breathe for me. But never, we don't want to see this. We want that belly out the whole time once he's set. So now let's go ahead and drop down to the deadlift position. So you'll notice here that the bar is actually maybe a tad back behind the scapula. So now go ahead and drop the butt way down. Notice how the shoulders start to drop back behind the bar. We don't want to be there. We want the shoulders out over the bar. Up just a tad. There we go, kind of vertical shins. Now, at this point, we don't want any slack in the arms. We want nice static ropes for arms. And as he starts to drive, the first thing he's going to do is drive those knees back and his butt. See how his butt rose a little fast there? Let's come back down. We want the butt and the shoulders to move at the same speed up. So let's go ahead and do that. Still shooting the butt a little bit, but that's okay. See how now the bar is swinging about 3 inches away from his legs. We don't want that. So what we want is we want that bar in contact with his legs, and if he shoots the butt up fast, the bar is going to swing out away. That's going to make a deadlift about 50% more difficult than it needs to be. So let's go ahead and rise the shoulders. There we go. Now the bar is in contact with his legs, and he finishes by opening his hips up. Very good. And his shoulders are behind the bar at the top of the lift. Now, one last point on the deadlift. Do not relax as you lower that bar. You've got two choices at this point. You can either dump it, or if you're going to lower it, keep that back tight, keep in a good posture, because we don't want to get injured just lowering the bar after a good lift. So go ahead and lower it, stay in tight, good, and that's the deadlift.